Let's level about the high-speed rail. The current project, as planned, would cost too much and respectfully take too long. There's been too little oversight and not enough transparency. Right now, there simply isn't a path to get from Sacramento to San Diego, let alone from San Francisco to LA. I wish there were. However, we do have the capacity to complete a high-speed rail link between Merced and Bakersfield.
Ever since its conception a decade ago, the California high-speed rail line has been a subject of controversy amongst Californians across the state. Many Californians agree with the Governor Gavin Newsom that the high-speed rail construction is too expensive and taking far too long. Many other Californians, however, believe it still should be built, despite its shortcomings, difficulties, and obstacles. So let's jump into it and discuss this issue. We will be talking about why the high-speed rail line should be built. First of all, there are three counter-arguments of the high-speed rail line being built, one of which is the expense, the ever-growing price tag. This is a legitimate point that should be addressed. Originally, in 2010, the estimates were of about $45 billion to build phases 1 and 2. Ever since then, the price tag has only skyrocketed. In 2016, the estimate has increased to $77.3 billion, and last year, it jumped again to $98.1 billion. Another counter-argument is that the California High-Speed Rail Authority needs more oversight with its budget, planning, and logistics. This is another point that holds a lot of weight. The project is practically ruled by consultants. At the beginning of the project, consultants convinced the state that the government only needed to hire consultants to handle all the heavy lifting for the project for the purposes of keeping the costs down. Not to mention that these consultants were only managed by a small staff of actual government workers, which led to the significant portions of the project being mismanaged. Examples include an engineer hired by a consultant average 4 times more than would be directly hired by the state. Another example is that state employees in some cases would report to consultants rather than the other way around. There are also cases in the California High-Speed Rail Authority where there are managers that were brought in as promotions by their friends, and many don't know who is defined in doing what. The other main counterpoint is the existence of all the technological and logistical restrictions in play. In essence, the actual construction will be a huge hassle. A large part of the budget will go to negotiating, buying, and zoning the land from farmers and other landowners. But this is the least of their worries. Once construction moves to more suburban and urban areas, there will be increasing amounts of community opposition to the project, which will result in more and more lawsuits. Not to mention, the state has to develop a safe and efficient way to construct this rail system with the capacity to hold 2 trains moving at 220 miles per hour. These 3 counterpoints are all valid points. They should be addressed, and alteration and adjustments should be made before the project continues, and they are. Governor Gavin Newsom appointed a new chair to the California High-Speed Rail Authority a few months ago, Lenny Mendoca, who was previously his economic development director. Governor Newsom also told the Los Angeles Times that he aimed to cut down the number of consultants that are involved in the project. He's quoted in saying, "I'm getting rid of a lot of consultants. How did we get away with this?" As for the technological and logistical obstacles, many say that the state needs to undertake them anyway and consider this project as a huge investment into the state's future. California is in need of another form of public transportation, one that will take the economic pressure and focus off the Bay Area. Our region, the Bay Area, is home to many big and small tech companies. Apple, Facebook, Google, Twitter, eBay, Adobe, PayPal, Cisco. The list goes on and on. It would be a benefit for everyone if these companies started to spread out in the state, and that the Silicon Valley may include the Central Valley in its economic developments. For instance, it would be great if Google or some other large tech company would decide to open a big campus in Modesto, Merced, or Bakersfield, because it would offer some incentive to move over to that job. California is in need of another form of public transportation, one that will take the logistical pressure and focus off the Bay Area. One of the most common things people living in the Bay Area complain about is the commute. The highways that many people take to go to work in the Silicon Valley are, more often than not, backed up with traffic. A study was conducted by joint venture Silicon Valley, which showed that the Silicon Valley mega communities, or driving one way 90 minutes to work, is increasing in number at a higher rate than Los Angeles. Building this high-speed rail will give Californians a faster logistical alternative while alleviating some of the pressure from the highways. The existence of a high-speed rail line that connects different parts of the state will spread the economic prosperity of the Bay Area across California, which will lighten the influx of immigration into the Bay Area. In terms of housing, what are the most common complaints in the Bay Area? Housing is too expensive, and the supply is not meeting the growing demand. However, if the Central Valley becomes more developed, more desirable, and is more sought after, the hope is that the cities in the Bay Area could get the opportunity to catch up with their housing demands, while the Central Valley gets the limelight. The Central Valley needs access to the Bay Area through a high-speed rail line to give it much-needed development. Opening up and developing the Central Valley with the high-speed rail will give it opportunities to establish legitimacy and create an identity for itself. Currently, one downside of Governor Newsom leaving the plan like it is has brought forth many critics that are willing to mock the project at the expense of the Central Valley. Many of them would ask the questions, what is in the Central Valley? Farmland? What else? This is a rail line to nowhere. Of which Newsom has responded with,
Now, I know some critics are going to say, well, that's a train to nowhere. But I think that's wrong, and I think that's offensive. The people of the Central Valley endure the worst air pollution in America and have some of the longest commutes in this state. And they have suffered too many years of neglect from policymakers, respectfully, here in Sacramento. They deserve better.
If the high-speed rail line is built, it would seemingly bring cities closer together.